I think one of the great gifts of being a part of the leadership of the AHPBA are all of the amazing people that you come to know and come to call friends as you work in the leadership of this organization, and Ghazi is certainly one of those for me. But I will tell you, for all the years that I have known Ghazi in preparing for this talk, I really honestly had no idea of the depth of his character and of his incredible contributions. So I hope to share with you in the next few minutes some of what I've been able to learn. So Ghazi was originally born in Kurdistan, Iraq, and you'll note the question mark here on his birth date. And the reason for that is that we don't actually know exactly what date Ghazi was born, because all of their documents were destroyed by Saddam Hussein's regime. And it turns out when you immigrate to the United States, if you don't know exactly when your birth date is, you are assigned a birth date of July 1st. And as Ghazi immigrated here with his brother, they swapped the actual years of birth. So Ghazi actually is 2 years younger than would be suggested by his birth date. I think his brother got the raw end of that swap, actually. And so Ghazi was actually born in 1957, though his birth certificate says 1955. And Ghazi is obviously clearly an accomplished academic surgeon, has made many contributions to our field, as well as at LSU Shreveport, where he has risen up through the ranks and achieved multiple important titles. I'll draw your attention to the Malcolm Feist Chair in Transplantation, because I think, unlike many of us who are fortunate to have an endowed chair, this is an endowed chair that was endowed by one of Ghazi's patients. Really in generous donation, just as we saw today from another of Ghazi's patients donating to our own foundation. Ghazi has served as the past president of the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, as well as the past president of the International College of Surgeons. I think, though, as we all realize as we move forward in our careers, that our titles by no means define our legacy. And it's really the contributions that we make in these opportunities that really establish our impact and our footprint going forward. And I think this was really nicely illustrated for me checking into this meeting, checking into the hotel. Ghazi introduced me to Dr. Anand Annamalai, who is a surgeon from Cedars-Sinai. And as Anand and I sat and chatted a bit about Ghazi as we were trying to check into the hotel, waiting for our rooms, he proceeded to tell me that Ghazi, over the last 5 years, in all of the ways that he has helped him more than anyone his entire career has ever helped him. And I think that's really what it's all about. It's about getting to know and to promote and to develop others, and clearly Ghazi exemplifies that. But really what I want to tell you about Ghazi is his background and his contributions to the world, quite honestly. As you see here, Ghazi is originally from the Kurdish region of Iraq. It's in the northern part of the country, obviously an incredibly beautiful part of the world. But unfortunately, as Ghazi was growing up, Saddam Hussein sought to, not my words, his, cleanse Iraq of the Kurdish people. And there was an attempted genocide. The borders were closed, and Ghazi and his tribe and their people were at incredible risk. There was no ability to bring supplies, books, educational materials, anything into the country, and this ensued for decades. And as I believe for many of us, there's often a strong woman in the background of our success. This is Ghazi's mother. Ghazi was one of 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls, and unfortunately we do not have any pictures from Ghazi's childhood because they were all destroyed as they fled from Saddam Hussein and his armies. And Ghazi's father is pictured here, I believe, as the man in the front, because he looks remarkably like his eldest brother. But unfortunately, his father died when he was very, very young, and his mother raised all 6 children on our own while moving them around the country to maintain their safety. Ghazi's shown here with his 4 brothers. He is the youngest of the 4, and I'll tell you a bit more about his eldest brother as we move forward. At one point, Ghazi's mother and family and tribe had to move into the caves in the mountains of Kurdistan. And all the while, his mother ensured that Ghazi and his siblings continued their education, no matter the conditions, no matter the location. Ghazi was fortunate to be able to return to the small town of Duhok, where this will become important moving forward, and completed high school. But shortly thereafter, he and his family had to escape to Iran as refugees. Approximately 1 year later, in 1976, Ghazi and one of his brothers and some cousins were actually brought to the United States through a church mission from Nashville, Tennessee, where Ghazi was fortunate to learn English, attended David Lipscomb College in the evenings while working during the day. Upon completing his undergraduate training, Ghazi went on to matriculate and attend the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where he received his MD degree in 1985. And following this, he pursued surgical training at Ellis Shreveport, followed by his transplant fellowship at Johns Hopkins. And many of the individuals who've contributed to Ghazi's training are here today with him. Ghazi then returned to LSU Shreveport as a faculty member, where he really began the beginning of over 2 decades of contributions to that institution, rising up through the ranks and clearly embracing all of the LSU Tiger paraphernalia for he as well as his family. But I want to tell you about what Ghazi has done outside of LSU and outside of our country. Ghazi, upon leaving Kurdistan, really was committed to going back to his homeland, his country, to deliver the highest possible quality medical care and to start to rebuild what had been destroyed in his country. And fortunately, in 1992, almost 2 decades after having been chased from his country, his eldest brother, General Babakar Sabari, who had stayed behind in Iraq and also was rising up through the ranks, but in the new Iraqi army, and rose to the highest level of chief of staff for almost 12 years. And that army contacted Ghazi and said, if you can get to the border, we can safely get you into Kurdistan. And so in 1992, he returned for the first time back to Kurdistan, greeted by his brother, greeted by his tribe, greeted by all of the individuals in that territory at this point, and immediately began to start to rebuild. He went with his brother to the Azadi Hospital in Duhok, where he immediately began a needs assessment. He found things in complete disarray, antiquated textbooks, really virtually no resources whatsoever, as everything had been destroyed. This had been the Saddam Hussein Hospital and had been renamed immediately at the end of the First Gulf War to the Azadi Hospital. And this will become important because this has really become the foundation of many of the contributions that Ghazi has gone on since 1992 to make in this area. Jumping ahead and moving forward to 2004, Ghazi continued to go back annually, but he did so on his own. It was not safe for anyone else to go with him, and he did not want to place anyone in jeopardy. And in fact, you were not allowed to enter the country or Kurdistan or the Kurdish territory if you were not born in that region. But in 2004, things relaxed, and Ghazi then at that point began taking teams to Kurdistan regularly, partnering with other organizations, and really on a mission to develop Azadi Hospital into a quaternary care center where he could actually deliver the highest possible quality care, as had been his mission, including renal transplantation and developing a living donor renal transplant program in this location to provide care to these patients. He worked with Operation Hope, as stated here, and was able to be highlighted by this reporter, Stephanie Brzezinski, where I found online, and I think this is just a fantastic picture of Ghazi in Kurdistan. Ghazi's international outreach has reached bounds well beyond Kurdistan, and he's really established for the AHPBA this as a central tenet of our organization. He will talk more about that in his presidential address, but this has reached 17 trips being performed by the AHPBA this year. And I'll highlight down here the supplies which have been brought into these countries. Moving forward and really elevating this to the next level, Ghazi, Javier, Oscar, and others have been working to try to get recognition from the World Health Organization, as unfortunately in recent trips, all of those supplies have been confiscated at the border and not allowed into the country. And so working with the World Health Organization to achieve approval for the AHPBA mission trips, this is going to really take us to the next level in terms of our humanitarian outreach. I want to tell you just about one of Ghazi's awards because I think it's quite remarkable. In 2007, Ghazi received the prestigious Ellis Island Medal of Honor on May 10th, 2007. And I'm embarrassed to say I actually did not know very much about this award, so I'd like to just tell you about it. The Ellis Island Medal of Honor is meant to embody the spirit of Americans in their celebration of patriotism, tolerance, brotherhood, and diversity. It recognizes individuals who have made it their mission to share with those less fortunate their wealth of knowledge, their indomitable courage, their boundless compassion, unique talents, and selfless generosity, all while maintaining the traditions of their ethnic heritage as they uphold the ideals and spirit of America. This is viewed as one of the 4 most prestigious awards that our country gives. And Ghazi was a recipient in 2007, as you can see, along with many other incredibly well-known individuals. So at this point, I'm sure you're feeling as inadequate as I was. I'm going to have to cure cancer by next year to have even remotely the contributions that Ghazi's had in his life. But you're thinking, but Ghazi's all work, no play. He's no fun. I'm a lot more fun than Ghazi is. But turns out you're not right there either. And a huge thank you to Maysoon and Quintu for digging up these pictures for me, because as it turns out, there's a whole other side to Ghazi that we did not know about. In fact, you might say he's the life of the party, and clearly a ladies' man. And as Maysoon pointed out, perhaps his idol was Sonny Bono at this stage of the game. So at this point, I want to remind Ghazi of why he loves Maysoon so much, as she provided these pictures. Ghazi met Maysoon in 1992 as he returned to Iraq. They were married shortly thereafter, and approximately a year later, when Maysoon's paperwork was completed, she was able to come and join him in the States. I actually left the notes I wanted to share with you from all their children, but I'm going to paraphrase. Maysoon and Susan, who's been tremendous help, their eldest daughter, in putting all of this together, as well as their children, who I will introduce momentarily, provided comments about their father, which were incredibly moving. And Maysoon described that if every woman in the world had a husband such as hers, that they would never have any problems, that her life started the day that she met him. And I think as you talk to Maysoon and you see Ghazi with his family, you realize that that is absolutely true. They've been blessed with 4 beautiful children, 3 of whom were able to be here today. Susan is the eldest, followed by Reynas, followed by Rona, followed by Lehat. And we have these pictures of them here, and I think poor Reynas, who wasn't able to be here today, was thrown a little bit under the bus by his big sister. And I'm sure there will be some retribution for this later. Ghazi's a devoted father, and I think as we heard, he is really clearly committed. He travels significantly for his humanitarian work, but he always makes time at home, and he clearly, his children are the love of his life. In Susan's words, and I loved this, she said, "My dad considers himself lucky to have immigrated to the United States, but I think the United States is the lucky one." And I think she is absolutely right about that. Reynas, fortunately out of the bathroom here, said, "If I could even become half the man that you are, Dad, I would consider myself a success. I love you, Pops." But I have to tell the first part of his paragraph, which said, "Dad, you asked me to write a paragraph about you, and I gave you a less than enthusiastic response to that, and you told me not to be lazy, son." And his response actually was, it was not about being lazy at all. It was that he could not possibly begin to encapsulate you in one paragraph. And I will share with you all of their comments at the conclusion of your address. Rona said she's never been so proud to say that you are her dad. She will ever be forever grateful to have been given such an exquisite man as a father. And last but not least, Lehat. I think Lehat was the one who spoke to Ghazi, spending time with him, playing soccer, going to games, again, making time for the things that really matter, and said, "There are many things I can say about my father, but one thing I have to say is how incredible and wonderful he is." And so I think there's no real way to say anything further, to build further on the words of your family and your children, to speak to your contributions and the incredible man that you are. So with that, please join me in welcoming our president, Dr. Ghazi Sabari.